No. Now, this is the one that didn't come from the Charter Review Commission. This came right out of the mayor's mind, I guess, you know. It's, if you notice, if you've been paying attention the last few years, he's been doing everything he can to raise more revenue. I think 5 years ago, it was issue 17. He wanted the citizens to vote on raising the income tax 0.25% to pay for, you know, mostly it was his quote-unquote economic development. So people voted that one down. And then 2 years ago, I feel like his so-called Sewers for Scholarship was an attempt to get money. Okay, I don't think it was really for what he said it was for, giving scholarships. It was more to it than that. Okay, it was a way of raising money. Now, okay, he's trying to raise money. Okay, an extra, he says the finance department say this would raise $13 million a year. And the way it would work is like in 2003, the voters voted to raise our income tax 0.25% to pay our share of the school building fund, which the state's going to pay 60%. We had to pay about 40%. And this is how, okay, we're doing it. And at that time, there was a commitment. The money would never, ever be used for anything except building schools like this. Now, these are beautiful, okay? They're technically community learning centers, not schools, but we're about halfway through the program, and 7 years later, the same politicians that made that commitment now want to be let out of that commitment, so we can divert is it 1/4 of the, is it 1/3 or 1/4? Okay, it's 1/3 of this 0.25% income tax for the next 3 years to give to the city to operate their police, fire, and a small amount for snow removal. Now, okay, it's like a lot of people say, well, that's really great. You know, that's really creative. The mayor came up with this creative idea to pay for our police and fire and snow removal just to get us through this here, you know, hard times. Okay, well, it's really a tax increase. It's the only thing is we're not paying for it. Our grandchildren are going to be paying for it because they're going to extend the tax another 5 years. Right now it's slated to expire in 2033, and they're going to extend it till 2038. So it violates a real basic principle of you know, municipal finance that, you know, we pay for the day-to-day operations for running our city, like paying salaries out of our operating fund that we get, you know, from our income tax. And capital items like building schools, you sell bonds to do that. Okay, those are long-term, just like you borrow money to buy a house, it's called a mortgage. So it violates that basic principle. And I oppose it because, first off, you know, it's reneging on a promise that was made, all right? And secondly, I think it's probably, if this passes, it'll probably be the first step of raiding this here school building fund, because after 3 years, they're going to say, well, we need to extend it again for another 5 years. So let me read it real quick. Shall Section 86E of the Charter of the City of Akron be adopted to add a section allowing 1/3 of the 0.25% income tax approved by the voters on May 6, 2003, to be used for public safety purposes in the years 2011, 2012, and 2013, and extending collection of the 0.25% income tax through December 31st, 2038 for the Akron Community Learning Centers. Yes or no? So.
Before Warner gets started, Save Our City is not actively campaigning against issue 17. So in deference to part of our group, you know, is the police union, and they did, the police union president did endorse issue 17. I'm not going to talk about the reasons why. However, personally, I want everybody to not, there's a fear tactic. We're going to lay off police, we're going to lay off fire, because we're not going to have enough money if you don't pass this issue.
I never believed in it.
Yeah.
One of the things that another group, I come from Save Akron's Keepers, and part of the reasons we're out here campaigning against all these is we're looking to get an issue on the ballot to permanently fund police and fire. This is not a permanent solution. We have, I don't know how many millions of dollars in longevity payments due in 2012. So, you know, this is not a permanent solution.
Right.
And one of the things that we're going to look to do is to get a permanent solution.
Yeah.
So don't believe the hype. And, you know, the fear tactics of, we're going to lay off police, we're going to lay off on fire, because they don't have a plan B. Marco said it on the radio.
Right, let me just say a couple things. I think the FOP was kind of strong-armed into kind of giving issue 17 a lukewarm endorsement, because the mayor had laid off 40 police officers, and this was part of the bargaining to get them back, okay, after they were laid off for 1 week, I believe, and 2 weeks, and you know, naturally, to get these guys back to work, the FOP said, yeah, okay, well, we can go along with that endorsement, which, okay, is, I'm not sure if it's legal without the FOP voting on it, but they did say it is. Okay, the people on the bargaining committee for the FOP did that, Paul Helinski and his guys, but I think, I'm not going to speak for them, but I would guess most of them probably deep in their heart oppose this. And secondly, as Chrissy mentioned, there are other ways of funding. If we need more money for police and fire, and I'm not completely convinced we do, okay, there is other ways of doing that. There's, you know, we could put something on the ballot to raise the income tax 1/10 to 1%. That would do that. Okay, there's been some talk about doing that. Okay, and that would raise enough money. The money would have to be earmarked for police and fire. And, or we could just shift around something called the formula from the income tax, give more money to the put more money into the operating budget. That would require a charter amendment, I believe, but that's what issue 8 was, if you've been paying attention. Early 90s, that was what was supposed to fully fund the police department in the early 90s. Don Pasquale got that passed. That never, that money was never used to fully fund the police department. What I think it was used for is the mayor feathering his own nest by paying these big salaries for these deputy mayors. Yeah. They're all making over $100,000 a year, okay, and that comes out of operating funds. So, but Warner, what do you say about this?
Well, I mean, I don't even know where to begin with this, but let's look at the ordinance itself and read it very carefully. They're going to use, this is actually in the ordinance, they're going to use 1/3 of the 1/4% tax over 3 years, okay? Now, if you do your math, I know it's been a while for some of us, it's been a while for me, but my son is in, you know, he's in 5th grade, and I'm doing a lot of elementary math and it's fractions right now. And when you figure this out, it's 1/3. The extension should be for how long?
1 year.
1 year. Not 4 years. No, it's 4, read it.
Here it says 2034 to 2038.
It's 2000, yeah,
extension.
it's 2034, 2035, 2036, 2037, 2038, 5 years.
5 years.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
1 year is going to cover what they're taking from the school, so why the heck do we need 5 years?
Yeah.
Now, does it seem like they're tricking us? Or is that just me? Okay?
Well, and they're saying that Akron needs bigger classrooms for certain things. They
Well,
have decreasing class size,
but
they
that's-
need practice fields, they need this, they need that.
They're saying they need to pull
Right, extra funds.
a little extra fund for police and fire right now, but they
Right.
need a 5-year extension
You know,
on this tax.
what the finance department is saying is this 1/4 of 1% at current levels is raising approximately $13 million a year. Okay, that's $13 million. This 1/4 of 1%. All right, now the city would take a third of that, or yeah, a third of that, which is about $4,000, a little over $4 million a year. So the city would get for the years 2011, 2012, and 2013 around $12 million. Okay, and then the back end, when you know, most of us aren't going to be working then, even if we're going to be alive. Okay, because only people at work pay income tax. Okay, city income tax. They're going to pay it. Okay, probably our kids and our grandchildren if they're still living here. Now that's going to, even at current for 5 years. Okay, times 5 times 13. So that's about what, $70 million?
In today's dollars.
In today's dollars. Okay, so Warner's right. Okay, why do you need to do it for 5 years? Okay, they just want to raise more money. This is a tax increase, and it's a way of selling to the people by sugarcoating it, saying it's for the police. Now, another thing you have to understand about, taxes is like, money is, what's the word, fungible. In other words, if somebody gives me $100, okay, to pay my water bill, the $100 I had over here that I was going to pay my water bill, I could use it to go out and have a party with or something, you know? Okay, so in other words, I'm not going to take this $100 and say, well, I'm going to double pay my water bill. So just like the lottery back in the 70s when they passed that, they said, a lot of people say, well, how come we need all this money for schools? Because didn't the lottery take care of that? Well, yeah, all the profit from the state lottery goes to the schools. But what the politicians didn't tell you is the money they were using from the general fund to pay for the schools could be diverted to something else. So there's no net increase in the amount of money that they're spending for schools. Well, if this passes, the mayor can do the same darn thing. Can you take that $13 million for the next 3 years and use that for police and fire and snow removal, and take $13 million out of the general fund that probably would have been earmarked for those things and use it for whatever he wants, economic development or whatever, to pay his salaries in his cabinet. So it's not a good idea. It sets a bad precedent. It violates, like I said, principles of how we finance our city. We should pay for the day-to-day operation of our city. Okay, and we should have come up with some way of doing that out of current money, not ask our grandchildren to do it. So, anybody?
I have
Vicki?
one more.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Vicki.
Two thoughts about this. The ballot language, I believe, says to be used for public safety, doesn't it? And it doesn't.
I think snow removal probably could be considered safety.
It doesn't specify, like what council passed, what is public safety. So my question is, can he call something else public safety?
Well,
And
what
use
would take
the money for
precedent?
that?
Ballot language?
The answer is yes, of course
Yeah.
he could.
They purposely make these things vague so they can do anything they want with them.
And then the second thing I have to say about this is Warner put on his document site last year's audit by the state. And 18 out of 18 funds were in deficit.
Right.
And what the state says is that indicates that money was being used improperly.
Right.
So if
I thought the
18
budget
out
won
of 18
awards.
funds were in deficit at the end of last year, where would this money go?
Yeah.
We have no idea.
Yeah. Well, you know what people don't realize, and it's such a big number, it's hard to get your arms around it. The city's debt, general obligation debt that we owe, okay, is probably $800 million. With interest, it's probably $1.5 billion. That's a lot of debt for a city this size, okay? And a lot of people say, oh, what do you care? Like the federal deficit's like $7 trillion or something, but 13 trillion. But this is money, okay, that, see, cities cannot just go into debt, like borrow money from China and run up the national debt. We have to have a way of paying off these bonds, and we're going to have to pay off all these bonds. And if you read the fact finder's report that the FOP got, forced the city, okay, and I was really proud of the FOP for forcing the city to not, to not bury that, okay? If you read that closely, the finance department, even the state auditor at the end of 2008 said there's a number of funds, okay, that the city took money from the operating budget, from the operating budget and paid these funds. These are capital projects, okay? You're not supposed to take operating money and pay for capital projects, okay? That's why we have a formula in our charter that divides the income tax between operating, that pays for the day-to-day operation of the city, and capital projects. So, and I'm thinking like, okay, how come nobody on council says anything about this, okay? Because this, the finance department had this report, okay? Well, it's kind of like this. If they lay it out there, the state auditor lays it out there, and council doesn't do anything about it, nobody else is going to do anything about it. It's just as simple as that, and it's up to the council to do something about it, okay?
Isn't it illegal? It's against the state.
It is, it's against state law, but nobody's enforcing the
Yeah.
law in the city.
Well,
Right.
the law department, I would imagine.
Okay, anyone else? Rudy?
The city's in debt $800 million.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
There's no way in hell. It's just like you being in debt for $400,000. You're working, you're making a certain amount, and there's no way in hell you're gonna pay that money.
Yeah.
So
Well,
don't
how
even
much would
argue
it be
about
in
it.
interest every year on that
Oh,
one? 50 million?
Millions. About half the capital